My name is Ibrahim Osman Adam, and I'm going to be taking you advanced qualitative research methods. This course is offered by the MA Management Studies students, MSc Accounting, Leadership and MA Leadership and Development, and then the MCOM with various options. Today's session will be to take you through the course outline and then also show you where you will be able to access your course materials, and then we'll also take some time to look at the term paper you'll be submitting to me at the end of this course. Okay, so as I have indicated, this will be an introductory course, an introductory session where we'll look at the syllabus, my teaching plan, and then the reading list. In this introductory session, I will introduce you to the research methods course. Then we'll discuss the objectives of the course, the course outline in detail, and then the assessment and expectations you may have, and we'll also discuss the term paper you would be submitting. They will also talk about how you would be able to access the course materials for this course. Now, the key reference text I'll be using for this course is a book by Saunders, Lewis, and Thornhill. The title is Research Methods for Business Students, and I will offer you the 2016 edition for free. It's an e-copy. Okay, this is the reference. Now, it is important that we appreciate the fact that the conduct of academic research can be of two ways. It can either be quantitative or qualitative. In this course, our main focus would be on qualitative research design, and in discussing or building our understanding of qualitative research design, we'll look at 5 different approaches to qualitative inquiry, and so that by the end of the course, you will be sure that if you want to conduct qualitative research, you would know which of the 5 different approaches you would want to use. But the reason why we are looking at all these different approaches, it will be to create your understanding of different procedures for conducting qualitative studies using any of these approaches, so that you'll be able to do qualitative research in an independent manner. Okay, so what is the aim of the course? The aim at the end of this course, my expectation is that all of you should be able to know the different features of qualitative research. You should be able to understand what research is basically, know the different features of qualitative research, and understand the rules that govern our conduct of qualitative research. You should also know and understand critically the various approaches one can use to conduct qualitative research. And finally, you should be able to conduct qualitative research on your own without anybody's assistance. I hope we'll be able to achieve this objective. So to deliver the content for this lecture, we'll have different sessions, and a session per day for the next 2 weeks. Actually, we'll be doing 10 effective days. So in the first session, we'll try to understand what we mean by research, and we'll do that by defining and understanding what we mean by research in the context of business and management. So this session's main focus will be to introduce to you the purpose of qualitative research and explain the qualitative research process. In this session also, I will try and present an overview of the types of qualitative research you may come across, and then we'll discuss the similarities and differences between these different qualitative approaches. Then you will also learn, the learning outcome will be for you to also understand what is and what is not research. When we define what research is or explain what research is, at the end of this particular session, you should be able to know when we say research what we mean exactly, and distinguish what our use of research may mean in some circumstances. After our definition and understanding of research in the context of business and management, our second session will be to try and see how we can formulate and clarify a research topic. We cannot conduct a research without focusing on a particular research area. And to focus on a particular research area, you need to have a research topic. So we'll try to understand how we can formulate and clarify a research topic so that our research topic is what focused. Before we can have a research topic or a researchable topic, we must have identified a problem. And the problem will be the basis on which the research is going to be conducted. So we also need to identify how we can carve out a research problem. We also try to understand what we mean by research purpose and then research questions. So the session will seek to explain how to formulate research ideas and transform it into a research topic. So basically in this session, what we are trying to do will be to try and explain how one can come out with different research ideas and how one can translate or transform these research ideas into a research topic. This session will also help you to identify research gaps and write a good qualitative research problem statement, purpose statement, and then bring out the research questions with which your research will be targeted at addressing. And then finally, this session will also explain the relationship between research background, what we mean by research problem, the research purpose, the research objective, and the research questions, and then see how all these things are linked up together. Okay, in the third session, we will try to understand the literature review process. When we say literature, what do we mean in the context of research? There's a literature review process. We'll try to understand what we mean. And to conduct or review relevant literature, conducting or reviewing relevant literature is very essential and critical in the research process. So we'll try to understand what we mean. And it's a very difficult and daunting task, but we'll try and see how we can explain this in a way that you'll be able to grasp easily. This particular session is also designed to help you to approach the literature review process with more clarity and with more confidence, so that it will be easier for you to do. So we'll look at various approaches and strategies and consider how you can use it suitably for the conduct of your research. Okay. In the fourth session, we'll try to understand what we mean by research paradigm. And in this particular session, our understanding of research paradigms will be underpinned by our understanding of what we mean by research philosophy and the different approaches under the research paradigms. And research paradigms are basically the basic assumptions that guide the conduct of one's research. And the assumptions a researcher have may determine the methods or the methodology the researcher may use. So in this particular session, our focus will be to discuss the relationship between the different paradigms and worldviews that we will identify, the different philosophical assumptions, and the interpretive frameworks that we will come across. This session will also explain the concept of research paradigm in detail and discuss paradigms such as positivism, interpretivism, realism, and critical realism, as well as others if we have time. It will also explain how to use the different paradigms in our research work, our research projects. The session will finally discuss how research paradigms embrace the qualitative research approach, because our focus in this particular course is on what? Qualitative research. The next session would deal with formulating one's research design or designing a qualitative study. And if one is going to design a qualitative study, the objective of this particular session would be to provide you with an overview of and also introduce you to qualitative research. So therefore, the session will discuss the key characteristics of qualitative research and its relevance to you as a researcher. The session will also discuss how one can conduct qualitative research and the types of research problems one can come up with and the questions one can ask in qualitative research. In the previous sessions, I have been mentioning that we will be looking at the different qualitative approaches. So in session 6, we'll look at 5 qualitative approaches. And in this particular session, our main objective will be to try and explain qualitative approaches such as narrative research, phenomenology, grounded theory, ethnography, and then case studies. For each of these approaches, we will try to explore the key features. We'll also explain the procedures involved in conducting research using any of these approaches, and then we'll discuss the potential challenges one may encounter if one is engaging in either narrative, phenomenology, grounded theory, ethnography, or case studies. But our main focus would be to look at case studies, which many of you would be using for the purpose of your term papers or thesis. The session will finally view the similarities and differences among the 5 different approaches we would have outlined. Then a critical part of this course would also be for us to try and understand how one can collect qualitative data. So session 7 will deal with qualitative data collection. And the session will try to explain to you the activities that will enable one to collect qualitative data for a particular research purpose in order to address some specific research questions. So to do that, we'll go through a number of activities. Some of these activities will be like how one can gain access to a particular site for field work. So we'll look at gaining access. We'll also look at how one can justify the selection of the particular site. We'll also look at sampling issues, whether one can sample purposefully. How do we collect the data? Do we record it? Do we make notes? All of this will be dealt with. And how do we even store it? After that, then we'll look at how one can analyze it. So the session will also review how all these activities differ in the different approaches we would have identified in session 6. Then in session 7, we'll look at session 8, session 8 will look at qualitative data analysis and how we can represent our data. Session 8, qualitative data analysis and representation. The session will try to explain to you the procedures and strategies one can use in data analysis in qualitative research specifically, and the approach one can use for each of the approaches we will have identified in session 6. The session will also discuss the methods for coding, and coding is a critical part of the qualitative data analysis. So we'll discuss the methods for coding and how we can use some qualitative analysis software such as Atlas TI, or we can use NVivo, and how that can aid us in our coding and analysis process. When we have done this in the qualitative research process, the next step will be to step back and then start writing your qualitative either dissertation, article, report, or whatever. So in this particular session, which is session 9, writing qualitative study, the session will explain to you the procedures and strategies you need to follow in writing your qualitative research. Okay, this will be basically the end, but we'll go on further if we have time in session 10 to look at some other issues such as standards of validation and evaluation. And these standards of validation and evaluation basically looks at how it seeks to address the questions on validity and reliability in qualitative research work. So the session will discuss the qualitative perspectives on validation and reliability procedures, which one can use to establish validity and reliability in qualitative research work. We also try to look at the last part of qualitative research, which is concluding our qualitative research. And that particular session, if there is time, we'll try to explain to you how to conclude a qualitative research work. And in this particular session, we'll try to explain the subsection of conclusion. And the subsections of the conclusion may be the summary of the paper or the dissertation. And then we'll revisit whatever conceptual framework we may have had. And then we'll also state the implications for the qualitative research in terms of what? Research, practice, and then policy. And then the future research directions that we may be leaving for other researchers to look at. When we have done this, my expectation is that you should be able to produce a proposal. You should be able to generate ideas, come up with a topic, have a clear, specific research problem. You should be able to also review literature, at least briefly, in order to develop a research proposal. And this research proposal will be your term paper. And this research proposal, if done well, can be an easy way to getting your chapter 1 of your term paper or chapter 1 of your thesis. This brings us to the end of the introductory session for qualitative research method. We will continue tomorrow with our first session, which will be on defining. Our first session tomorrow will be on defining and understanding business and management research. Thank you very much and see you tomorrow. Bye.